In this world, there is one keyword everyone wants to hear, everyone wants to believe in: loyalty. From family and friends to work, society teaches us that loyalty is the measure of one's character, the foundation of all relationships. Those who lack loyalty are seen as traitors, as villains. But have you ever wondered, does that loyalty truly exist? Or is it just a beautiful story designed to lull us into complacency? There are moments in life when everyone experiences the feeling of being left behind once things are no longer going well. A close friend who once promised to always stand by your side disappears when you face hardship. A business partner who once vowed to share both hardship and success suddenly turns away when a better opportunity arises. Sound familiar? What we call loyalty is, in reality, just an unspoken agreement of mutual benefit when the benefits remain. The relationship endures when the benefits dry up. Everything falls apart. Understanding this is not meant to make you cold or distrustful. It's meant to help you enter relationships with open eyes, knowing how to build sustainable bonds based on clear benefits and consequences. Instead of relying on fragile emotions, learn to establish alliances that can withstand challenges, relationships that hold firm even when tested. This is the first lesson about the true nature of loyalty. 1. Loyalty, an illusion carefully maintained by society. Loyalty, from a young age, we are taught that this is one of the noblest virtues. It is what makes a person trustworthy, the glue that binds relationships together, the foundation of family, friendship, comradeship, and nationhood. Those who are loyal are praised, those who betray are condemned. But there is a harsh truth that few dare to acknowledge: loyalty, as we understand it, is largely an illusion carefully maintained by society. It is not always a moral choice. It is a tool of control, a means of maintaining social order, a glossy veneer over the calculating survival instincts of human beings. Loyalty makes you feel safe, makes you believe that the relationships around you are stable, but beneath that calm surface lie countless calculations, interests, and constant change. Let's face the truth. Everyone remains loyal as long as it doesn't demand too much. A friend stays by your side when life is easy, when everything is going well, but when storms hit, when personal interests are threatened, when emotions are wounded, or when a better option appears, does that loyalty remain? It is no coincidence that relationships often fracture when interests no longer align. Business partners stay together as long as profits are good, but when difficulties drag on, they walk away. The companion who stood by you through the bright years quietly disappears when you stumble. Even within family, seemingly the strongest fortress of loyalty, fractures appear when assets, status, or personal emotions are disturbed. What makes loyalty such a persistent illusion is how society sustains and glorifies it. We are taught to be loyal to family, to organizations, to nations. Stories celebrating loyalty are told and retold. Symbols like flags, badges, or oaths of honor, all are constructed to reinforce the belief that loyalty is natural, that it is right, that it is an irreplaceable foundation. But behind that is an untold truth. Loyalty is not born naturally. It is an unspoken contract between parties, built on mutual benefits. When those benefits no longer exist or change, that contract is easily broken. The reason society upholds this illusion is because it creates a stable order. When people believe in loyalty, they are less likely to doubt one another, less likely to challenge the system. A loyal employee will stay with the company even when the salary is no longer competitive. A loyal citizen will support the government even when policies are unjust. From family to organizations to nations, keeping people believing in loyalty helps maintain power without the need for force. But when real life collides with this illusion, when loyalty is betrayed, the pain is not just from the loss. It is the shock of realizing that the world does not operate according to the beautiful rules we once believed in. When a friend turns their back, when an organization lays off a lifelong employee, when a nation abandons those who once served it, we feel betrayed not just by the action itself, but because the illusion we held crumbles. The more we believe in loyalty as an absolute value, the more vulnerable we are when it collapses. This does not mean we should live in suspicion, never trusting anyone, but we must understand one thing clearly: loyalty is always conditional. It exists when interests align, when relationships remain balanced. When those factors change, loyalty can disappear. without any deliberate betrayal. Realizing this is not to become cold or calculating. It is to understand the true nature of relationships, to build them on a more realistic foundation where both parties benefit. Respect one another, and clearly understand the limits of loyalty. In a world of constant change, wisdom lies not in demanding unconditional loyalty, but in recognizing when that loyalty begins to waver and why. This understanding not only protects you from disappointment, but also helps you build more resilient relationships, grounded in reality rather than illusion. And this is the awakening that society does not teach you, but it is essential to stand firm in a world full of hidden changes beneath the surface. 2. Human nature, self-interest and change. When discussing loyalty, we cannot ignore the foundation that governs it, human nature. And if there is one truth that runs through the entire history of humankind, it is this: humans are inherently self-interested and ever-changing. We do not like to admit this. We want to believe that we are noble beings, living for ideals, for love and sacrifice, but history, both personal and collective, tells a different story. Self-interest is not a moral failing, it is a survival mechanism. From our earliest days as primitive beings, humans learned to prioritize their own interests above all else. This is how we have survived through thousands of years of fierce competition with nature and with each other. Those who did not prioritize themselves were easily eliminated from the survival game. Self-interest here is not simply greed or malice. It is a fundamental instinct to protect oneself, to prioritize the well-being of oneself and one's closest circle. When we say that humans are self-interested, we are referring to the basic framework that shapes how we think, decide, and act. Everyone, consciously or not, asks the question, is this beneficial for me? Because of this, loyalty, whether to a person, an organization, or an ideal, is always weighed on the scale of personal benefit. When those benefits remain aligned, loyalty remains strong. When those benefits diverge, loyalty begins to waver. And when those benefits conflict, loyalty collapses. It is no coincidence that Machiavelli once said, "People are ready to shift their loyalty when their personal interests urge them to." This is not just an observation about politicians, it is a truth about all layers of society. From common people to leaders, look around. Employees remain committed to a company not because they love their boss or believe in the company's mission, but because of their salary, career opportunities, or a stable environment. When the company struggles, salaries are cut, or better opportunities arise, that commitment quickly wavers. Similarly, in personal relationships, affection, care, and attachment are all based on some underlying benefit, whether material or emotional. But self-interest does not stand still. It comes with another factor: change. Humans change over time. Needs change. Circumstances change. Emotions change. Someone may be loyal today because of their circumstances, but tomorrow, when those conditions shift, that loyalty also morphs. It is not surprising when a close childhood friend, who once shared everything with you, who was always ready to help, gradually becomes distant as each of you enters different phases of life. They no longer prioritize the same things. They have new concerns, new pressures, new interests to protect. And so, the seemingly solid friendship fades. Change also affects even the most seemingly secure relationships, like family. How many families fracture under financial stress? When children grow up and move away, when individual needs are no longer met, it is not because love is absent, but because circumstances change, and with them, each person's calculations shift, precisely because self-interest and change are inherent to human nature. Absolute loyalty becomes an impossible expectation. Anyone who expects others to remain loyal forever without considering circumstances and personal benefit is clinging to a dangerous illusion. Machiavelli did not condemn this. He simply pointed it out as reality, so that those in power, or those who want to build lasting relationships, understand the rules governing the human heart. If you do not grasp that loyalty is tied to self-interest, you will not know when it starts to waver, and you will be surprised when it collapses. Conversely, when you understand this nature, you no longer put too much faith in promises or commitments. You learn to observe interests instead of merely listening to words. You realize that to maintain sustainable relationships, the benefits of both sides must remain aligned. This does not make relationships cold or calculating. It makes them more realistic. When you understand that everything is conditional, you become more proactive in nurturing those conditions. Instead of demanding unconditional loyalty, you ensure that the relationship continues to hold value for both parties. And when you understand that change is inevitable, you learn to adapt. You do not place your trust in static states but in flexibility. You prepare for changes so that when they come, you are not caught off guard. Machiavelli teaches us a lesson that may seem ruthless but is actually a key to avoiding disillusionment. People are not loyal, they are loyal to their interests. And those interests are always changing. Understanding this is the first step to building lasting relationships, not on the foundation of blind trust, but on realism and an unceasing ability to adapt. Free. Conditional loyalty, the calculation of interests. Every relationship, whether personal, organizational, or national, operates on an unspoken rule. Loyalty exists only as long as interests remain aligned. This is a truth Machiavelli exposed over 500 years ago. Yet to this day, many still try to avoid it. We prefer to believe in unconditional loyalty, that a friend is forever, that an employee is eternally devoted to the company, that a citizen always loves their country. But in reality, loyalty is always a calculated game of interests. Machiavelli stated clearly, friendship bought with money is not trustworthy, and when trouble arises, it disappears. This applies to all forms of loyalty. Loyalty is not immutable, it is a silent agreement, based on the balance between what we give and what we receive. When that balance breaks, loyalty wavers. Look at the working world. A skilled employee remains loyal to a company not solely out of gratitude or belief in the company's mission, but because of salary, career advancement, and a work environment that suits their personal needs. When the company struggles, salaries are cut, or a competitor offers a better deal, that loyalty is tested, and when the balance of interests tilts elsewhere, that employee leaves. The same is even clearer in politics. Allies remain united when mutual interests align, but when power shifts, when interests conflict, those who once stood on the same side quickly turn into enemies. Not because they are traitors, but because their interests force them to change. A wise leader is neither surprised nor disappointed by this. They understand that political loyalty has never been absolute. It is a game of interests, where whoever holds more cards keeps their allies longer. It is similar in personal relationships. A friend may be willing to help when you are at the peak of your career because your presence brings them value, reputation, connections, opportunities. But when you falter, when those values fade, their loyalty also diminishes. Many people realize this during their hardest moments. Friends disappear, promises evaporate, it hurts. But Machiavelli would say, this is human nature. Loyalty always comes with conditions. These conditions can be money, status, security, the feeling of being loved, or any other benefit. When those benefits are present, loyalty is stable, but when conditions change, loyalty cracks. No one is loyal just for the sake of being loyal. Everyone weighs pros and cons, whether consciously or not. Machiavelli not only exposed this but went further by analyzing the mechanism behind conditional loyalty. He pointed out that loyalty is easiest when benefits are plentiful, when everything is favorable, money flows. Power is secure. Everyone finds it easy to appear loyal. But when hardship strikes, when loyalty becomes costly, when other options emerge, people begin to reconsider. They calculate whether continuing loyalty serves them better, or whether shifting allegiance better protects their interests. It is precisely in these moments that you see who remains loyal because they have no better options, and who is ready to leave when given the chance. That is why Machiavelli always emphasized, those in power must ensure that others remain dependent on them, must control the benefits others receive, so that loyalty is not free but a beneficial choice. This leads to a pragmatic but sharp conclusion: to maintain loyalty, ensure that others' interests are tied to you. When people feel that staying with you is their best option, they will remain loyal. When they see a better path elsewhere, they will leave. Simple, clear, unemotional. This also explains why some leaders maintain long-term loyalty from their subordinates. They know how to create tightly knit systems of benefits, where leaving would cost others dearly. A company that rewards employees not only with pay but with development opportunities, recognition, and valuable connections. They do not buy loyalty with cash, but with an ecosystem of benefits that employees cannot easily find elsewhere. Conversely, relationships based purely on emotion, promises, or blind faith in absolute loyalty inevitably face disappointment. When circumstances change, when benefits no longer align, those promises vanish, but this does not mean that humans are entirely immoral or opportunistic. Machiavelli did not claim that human nature is evil. He merely asserted that humans act according to their interests. When interests and loyalty align, relationships are strong. When interests conflict with loyalty, loyalty is always the loser. Understanding this, you no longer blame others when their allegiance shifts. You no longer naively believe that loyalty is unchanging. Instead, you learn to build relationships based on aligned interests, where both sides see value in maintaining the bond. More importantly, you learn to recognize when loyalty may shift, so you are neither surprised nor hurt, and can proactively adjust the benefits to maintain the necessary balance. Machiavelli teaches that loyalty is not something to beg for, it is something to be nurtured through benefits. Whoever understands this holds the key to keeping others by their side. 4. The difference between appearance and essence. In the world of power, what matters is not who a person truly is, but how they appear in the eyes of others. Machiavelli saw this clearly from the outset. He pointed out a paradox. People judge by what they see, not by what they truly feel or understand, and this creates a powerful gap between appearance and essence. Appearance, what others see, hear, and think they understand. Essence, the true nature, the real thoughts, the genuine motives, the things never exposed. Machiavelli did not see this difference as wrong or deceptive. On the contrary, he recognized it as the foundation of every lasting power dynamic. Whoever controls appearance controls the perception of others. Whoever confuses the need to be authentic with the need to build an image will easily be hurt. He stated clearly, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you really are." This means, the crowd judges by appearance, by staged actions, while the essence, the motives, calculations, core decisions, lies hidden behind that curtain. Those who understand this principle will know how to craft a solid facade to manage public perception, without having to reveal their true selves. Machiavelli did not advise living falsely. Instead, he emphasized a harsh reality. The crowd does not have time to search for the truth. They need a simple story, a clear image to hold on to. They believe in what they see, in what they hear, more than in what requires deep contemplation. This applies to politics, business, and every social relationship. A leader does not need to be genuinely merciful, but they must appear merciful. They do not need to be absolutely honest, but they must build an image of honesty. They do not need to always be right, but they must make others believe they are always right. This is the art of perception management, where the truth and people's beliefs rarely align. Machiavelli understood, the advantage lies in who controls the gap between appearance and essence. A wise leader keeps others seeing a curated version of themselves while protecting their true nature. Hidden and inaccessible. Consider a modern example. A CEO of a large corporation may smile broadly for the media, speak of vision, ethics, and caring for employees, but behind closed doors, when deciding to cut jobs or boost profits at any cost, they may be a cold strategist, ready to make ruthless decisions. Appearance is meant to build trust and maintain image. Essence is meant to preserve power and achieve goals. In personal relationships, the same applies. Someone may appear caring, attentive, and a good listener, but that does not mean they lack boundaries or private interests to protect. Conversely, someone who lays bare every emotion, every vulnerability, often ends up the most hurt because they have erased the boundary between appearance and essence. Machiavelli emphasized that this gap is a tool, a competitive advantage. It allows one to retain freedom, control, while still meeting social expectations. The wise understand that it is unnecessary to always speak the truth, to always reveal every plan, every motive. They know to keep a part to themselves, like a hidden card. Yet, most people are bound by classical moral ideals, that one must live authentically, aligning words and actions. Machiavelli challenges this. He does not claim morality is useless. He points out that morality is a part of appearance, not necessarily essence. To navigate the real world effectively, one must distinguish between the two. Another political example. A skilled leader knows the people need symbols to believe in. Promises, slogans, but to maintain power, they must know when to be merciful, when to be harsh, when to use cunning. Those who do not understand this either get overthrown for being too rigid or shunned for being too transparent. The gap between appearance and essence is a safe buffer zone, where those in power can act flexibly, unconstrained by the crowd's unrealistic expectations, and this gap helps maintain stability, because the crowd needs a pleasant image to hold on to. Even if reality does not fully match, in a world where loyalty, morality, or ideals can all shift with circumstances, controlling image becomes a form of power. Machiavelli understood that if you can make others believe in a consistent, admirable image, you can control them, even if your reality is entirely different. This is not a call to be false, it is an acknowledgement. The world judges with its eyes, not with its heart. Those who understand this maintain a necessary distance, a mask to survive and thrive. Those who forget this easily get hurt when reality is exposed, because they have given away too much truth, leaving themselves defenseless when storms arise. And that is the survival art of those who understand power. Appearance can change, but essence must remain firm. 5. Fear and self-interest, the foundation of lasting relationships. In relationships that seem to be built on affection, loyalty, or respect, Machiavelli pointed out a much more practical foundation: fear and self-interest. This is not mere fear in the form of violence or crude material self-interest. Rather, it is a form of balance between power and need, where each person is fully aware of the price to pay if the relationship is broken. And it is this balance, not promises or empty commitments, that sustains relationships in the long run. Machiavelli did not romanticize human nature. He understood that emotions can change, promises can be forgotten, but fear of consequences and personal interest remain the two most reliable driving forces. Humans, no matter how much they try to hide or idealize themselves, always make decisions based on these calculations. What do I gain from this relationship? And what could I lose if I break it? The fear Machiavelli spoke of is not about spreading terror or using brute force. Rather, it is the fear of consequences, the concern about potential losses. This could be losing an opportunity, the safety net, or a source of support. This is rational fear, not baseless panic. Look at how organizations maintain internal stability. Systems of reward and discipline are not just about fairness, they create a clear framework of consequences. When employees understand that disobedience or underperformance will lead to losing benefits, promotion, income, or position, compliance is no longer merely loyalty, but a rational choice. Conversely, if an organization lacks a clear consequence system, the relationship between leaders and subordinates will soon crumble when better opportunities arise. In politics, the fear of consequences is even more evident. Alliances, international treaties exist only when parties perceive that keeping their word is more beneficial than betrayal. When a nation knows that breaking an agreement will lead to economic sanctions, military retaliation, or diplomatic isolation, even if they are not truly loyal to the agreement, they still comply, out of self-interest and fear of consequences. Similarly, in personal relationships, whether friendship or love, interest and consequences remain powerful. Silent forces. A friend may stay close not only because of feelings but because they know you provide value, companionship, support when needed. At the same time, they know that if they betray you, they will lose a beneficial relationship, perhaps suffer damage to their reputation or face social isolation. Many people feel uncomfortable confronting this truth. They want to believe that relationships are unconditional, that people stay together for pure affection, but Machiavelli forces us to face reality. Feelings are not enough. When interests shift, when consequences lose weight, relationships change accordingly, not because someone is evil or disloyal, but because the original motivation has shifted. For this reason, Machiavelli affirmed that fear is more reliable than love, not because fear is better, but because it is more stable. Love can fade, but fear of consequences remains if maintained properly. A business retains talent not just through promises or a friendly work environment but through policies that ensure benefits, clear career paths, and strict rules that make employees think carefully before leaving. A good leader doesn't only win affection but knows how to set boundaries. keeping others aware of the consequences of disobedience or betrayal. However, Machiavelli also warned that fear must not turn into hatred. When a leader spreads unreasonable fear, without a fair system of consequences, fear turns into resentment, and that resentment fuels rebellion and overthrow. Therefore, the most effective fear is fear based on rules, systems, and transparency, where everyone knows that consequences are fair, not arbitrary. On another level, interest is the glue that holds relationships together. When both sides benefit, the relationship is stable. When one side loses value or sees better opportunities elsewhere, they will leave. Thus, leaders and those in power must constantly adjust interests and consequences to keep relationships stable. Nothing is permanent. All relationships must be reshaped according to the times. This truth may seem cold, but it gives us the tools to build more realistic and lasting relationships. Instead of relying on vague loyalty, we need to understand that sustainable relationships are built on a balance of interests and consequences. Knowing how to maintain reasonable fear, creating attractive enough benefits, allows one to control their network of relationships without relying on fragile emotions. And this is the true foundation of all lasting relationships. Not pure love, not unwavering loyalty, but a finely tuned and stable system of interests and consequences. 6. Practical application. Understanding human nature to manage relationships. Once you face the truth that loyalty is conditional, not absolute, the next question arises: how do you manage relationships effectively? Knowing that everyone operates based on self-interest and fear, Machiavelli didn't offer a rigid formula, but the principles he proposed can be flexibly applied to modern contexts, from work, business, to personal life. The point is not to abandon trust or become suspicious of everyone, but to build relationship systems based on a realistic understanding of human nature. Build relationships on mutual interests. First, accept that every relationship operates on interests, whether it's friendship, partnership, or colleagues. This doesn't devalue relationships, it helps you design them more practically. In business, instead of expecting vague loyalty from employees, a leader should establish clear benefit systems and transparent development plans. When employees understand that their loyalty brings tangible value, they will actively maintain the relationship, not because of emotions, but because they see that staying offers more benefits than leaving. This principle applies equally well to personal relationships. A lasting friendship isn't built on emotions alone. It's built on mutual exchange of emotional value and mutual support. A stable romantic relationship needs a balance between feelings and practical benefits like life support and joint development. Once you accept that interest is the pillar of relationships, you'll begin to observe and adjust. You'll ask yourself, where are they getting from me? What am I getting from them? Is there balance here? If the balance is off, sooner or later, the relationship will crack. Establish clear consequences for betrayal. Interest is one aspect, but fear of consequences ensures that even when interests change, the relationship doesn't immediately break. This doesn't mean using threats or violence. It means building rules and clear consequence systems. In work, employment contracts, binding commitments, compensation clauses are tools to create consequences for betrayal or departure. On a personal level, this could be boundary setting, where if someone crosses a line, they lose access, support, or their position in your life. When relationships operate with a reasonable structure of benefits and consequences, you don't need fragile emotions to keep others close. They stay because they know that leaving would result in greater losses than any benefits gained elsewhere. Always monitor shifting interests. Every relationship changes over time because people's interests always shift. An employee once satisfied with their current salary may start to waver when the job market changes. A business partner may falter when a competitor offers something more attractive. Monitoring shifting interests is key to long-term relationship management. A good leader constantly updates and reassesses benefit systems to ensure that relationships remain balanced. This not only retains people but also prevents betrayal. In personal life, the same applies. If someone feels the relationship no longer offers value or causes harm, they will start looking for an exit. What you need to do is regularly assess both sides. Am I providing value in this relationship? Are they still meeting my needs? Don't trust blindly, but trust strategically. Machiavelli didn't say we should live suspiciously. But he warned that blind trust is a mistake. Instead, trust strategically, meaning place trust based on interest systems, consequences, and ongoing observation. Ask yourself, what's their incentive to keep their word? What do they lose if they betray me? What keeps them in this relationship? When you understand how the other party operates, your trust is no longer blind but built on a stronger foundation. Proactively build alliances of interest. Rather than relying on loyalty, build alliances of interest. In business, these are win-win relationships where both sides gain significant value. In life, these are partnerships where both help each other grow. Alliances of interest are not only stronger than pure loyalty, they are more adaptable when circumstances change. When interests shift, the alliance can adjust to maintain balance, rather than falling apart because one side feels shortchanged. Accept that relationships can end. Finally, accept that no relationship is eternal. When interests or consequences no longer hold both parties together, separation is inevitable. Rather than suffer because of this, view it as a natural part of the game. Machiavelli teaches us that understanding human nature isn't for cynicism or hatred. It's to proactively manage relationships in the most practical way. When you master this principle, you not only build more sustainable relationships but also avoid unnecessary shocks when betrayal occurs. When we strip away the glossy veneer of loyalty pledges, we confront a harsh but necessary reality. Every relationship is built on benefit and consequence. Not everyone betrays out of malice. They simply act according to their natural instinct, seeking what benefits them most. Understanding this, we are no longer shocked when someone turns their back on us. Nor do we blindly place hope in empty promises. Instead, we learn to build relationships on a practical foundation, creating bonds enticing enough for others to maintain their commitments, while establishing consequences substantial enough to make breaking those commitments unappealing. No longer dependent on emotion, we manage our relationships with a cool head and clear heart. This doesn't make you cold, it helps protect you from unnecessary disappointment. Because the person who truly understands the mechanism of loyalty is the one who can maintain it the longest.